Welcome and hello. Thank you for joining the Interprofessional Collective meeting. We're so thankful to have you here today. My name is Shannon Scandoza. Just to let you know, this meeting is being recorded and will be made available. So, I hope please respect our speakers and each other by placing your microphone on mute during the presentation. And also during the presentation, please put all questions in the chat. They will be answered as they come along. So, as I said, my name is Shannon Scandoza. I am the founder and CEO of Inspirational by Design. We provide virtual clinical simulation training and innovative educational technology solutions. I also serve as a simulated patient educator, developing interprofessional simulation scenarios for universities and healthcare systems. And we are now expanding our work beyond healthcare. I've spent well over a decade working across both university and healthcare settings, and I'm thankful to be here today. So, we would love to hear a little bit more about you, where you're from, and what you do. So, if you wouldn't mind, and you can even undo your microphone and add to the room since there's going to be a few of us in the room, or you can share in the chat a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what you do. Would love to hear that. You will have access to our IPE training simulator, the Expanding Simulation Beyond Healthcare, at the Interprofessional Collective website. It is a hands-on simulation station with built-in scenarios, team activity, a debrief, and reflection. It also includes IPEC core competency mapping, resources, and a multidisciplinary simulator as well. That also has longitudinal case studies for you to play with after you leave today. So you will be able to go ahead and access that right here in the chat. And I'll put that in there. So our goal for today basically is for you to learn about the history behind simulation in the gaming industry and how it translates across all disciplines. So again, you will also have the opportunity to play with some of the simulators later on. So this, again, is a picture of myself, and one of my favorite quotes is, if it wasn't for simulation, I'd never try anything, right? So I felt this picture for me very much captures the way simulation is to me in the best way, because honestly, none of us would ever experience anything if we didn't get to try it first, right? So falling out of a plane at 10,000 feet wasn't exactly my idea of something I wanted to do for the first time in real life. So I went into the simulator and spent a couple times getting ready and getting prepared. Now, I never actually did go up in that plane, but I at least have the experience to draw on, and I'm very appreciative for that. So one thing I want to start by asking everybody here is, what do you think of when you hear the word simulation? So again, simulation looks like a lot of different things in a lot of different venues. And when I looked it up in terms of virtual clinical simulation or simulation training, this is what Google spit out. A simulation is a virtual imitation of a real world process, system, or event. It uses a mathematical or logical model to mimic real behaviors, allowing you to test scenarios, predict outcomes, and safely experiment without physical risk or actually disrupting the system, which I thought was very interesting, to say the least. So, if you attended the May webinar, we discussed the evolution of simulation and how it started with the military and aviation, and eventually it made its way into healthcare in 1963. Then video games were introduced as simulations around 1964 with the Sumerian game, which was a text-based mainframe computer program used by schools to simulate like ancient economics and resource management. Also followed up by the START, which was a mainframe program, the vehicle and console simulations, again, learning how to fly a plane for physics and for other different strategies. And as well as nowadays, what people really get into is those like in those the ones like Sim City, or the ones where the war games, the ones where they are live action play role playing games, which is really big, and it's a great learning tool. So I now that you quickly got a rundown basically on a quick history over my concept of video gaming technology, I'm going to actually bring the expert to the table. So I would love to introduce our guest speaker, Doug Whatley. Doug is the founder and CEO at BreakAway Games Limited and is nationally recognized pioneer in the field of serious games. With more than 35 years of experience leading game design and simulation research and development, he has helped advance the use of interactive technologies across government, industry, education, healthcare, and entertainment. His work explores how game based simulation can create engaging, realistic learning environments that support decision making, collaborating, and skill development across disciplines. Welcome, Doug. We are so honored to have you today.
Thank you. And your history of simulation only makes me feel old since my first game was done in 1984. So
Oh,
uh,
wow.
your ancient stuff doesn't predate me by much.
Well, we're thankful that you're here, and we are excited to hear about your expertise in this field.
Great. Um, a lot of I mean, what I really want to touch on, there's this problem in the games business of defining what is a game. And it's always been very difficult, and some people think of the word game as pejorative. Some of them think it's exciting and on the cutting edge of things. And you never know quite when you go out either on a sales call or an interview, um, what the person on the other side of the table is going to think of that. And simulation is very much the same. I mean, simulation is seen as something that is very detailed, can be engineering level, and people don't realize that a lot of things, like even back to the Sumerian game that she mentioned as that early thing, it's a simulation of an economy, and it is very symbolic, high level. It is not an engineering level economy game. And at Breakaway, we did a lot of entertainment games. We did city builders. We especially did historical city builders. We worked on games that were based in ancient China, ancient Egypt, and a lot of the players were playing that because they enjoyed building things, they enjoyed building a city, but really a big part of it for them was the discovery of um, how history and the development of technology and agriculture and everything else interacted with urban environments and those things, and it made for um, a fascinating mix for them where they could enjoy learning while at the same time um, scratching that itch for you know putting together an engine builder that works and those types of things are very popular across the world and in general. Go ahead and go to the next one. So I'm going to talk about five types of simulations and games for that matter. But really, I want you to realize this isn't like that there's five categories of simulations or anything like that, because there's so much overlap between these and the ways that it can be important. And that's what's makes them unique when they're so cross-domain. So for example, in the communication skills area, um, there's just being able to work with a virtual standardized patient is important. Whether you're a healthcare professional of any type, you need to practice that skill. You need to practice it with all different types of patients. And there's a real problem, especially in the pediatric area, in that it's just hard to get enough practice doing that. So, simulating these virtual patients is important, but it goes across other domains as well. We've built dental training simulations, and while that simulator was important to teach you how to measure properly where you were going to do the implant and how deep to drill in each type of bone, um, was the parts of it that people see. And when they see you looking in the mouth and they see realistic looking teeth and a drill and blood, they're like, okay, well, this is the simulator part of it. But leading up to that, you first have to interview the patient. And it's very important for the dentist to know, for example, that this patient is in a place where they can actually go through the many week multi-visit process of getting a dental implant. Not only can they financially afford it, but emotionally are they prepared for what they're going to come through. And you don't want to get halfway through a dental implant and have the patient stop. So that interviewing the patient in the chair is an important communication skill, so you can determine what type of treatment is important and whether this patient is actually a good candidate for what you are going to prescribe to them. And we have a retail game we did for optical, um, where you are the retail salesperson. A patient has just seen the ophthalmologist and they have a prescription, they need eyeglasses. But you have a lot of different skills that are conflicting here. You need to be able to talk to them and determine, in a retail way, what do they want sales wise? Are they fashion conscious? Are they budget conscious? Are they someone that's athletic and needs more rugged glasses and lenses? But you also need to understand the medical side. So this interview is both teaching you sales skills as well as melding in those medical um, knowledge, the awareness of the insurance implications and everything else, so that you can make a proper recommendation to this patient. So I just wanted to talk about how communication skills meld in with a lot of the medical skills and everything else, and are an important part that we have to simulate along with just the rote, what is your prescription, what type of lenses, or what type of dental implant do you want? You could go to the next one, Ken. And this is where the simulations, people often see VR headsets, 3D environments moving around. They have no problem thinking this is a simulation, um, because it is very much um, uh, that detailed working world. But when you look at games, some of the most educational games in the gaming world actually are not realistic looking, and it's more important to have the the game move fast or react quickly to you. So having the the game be detailed, realistic, and not run as well would be a detriment. So you're wanting to simulate the actions. So many of the sports games actually degrade their graphics, so that they can have that trade-off where they're actually showing a more realistic athletic experience because it's fast and it's reactive, and you can see the detail, as opposed to worrying whether you have the hair follicles modeled correctly on each person. Um, and we've learned over the years that when you go to build out these detailed immersive experiences, um, a lot of times we get hooked on things that don't add to the whole experience. Originally, we were building VR experiences and even our screen-based 3D experiences where you could navigate around. You could walk in the door, you could walk around the patient, the bed, the operating room was completely available to you to move around. Um, but we were actually getting negative learning from a lot of that because, first of all, when you're doing the important stuff, you're standing beside that operating table in a certain place and you're not moving around. So we spent a lot of effort making you be able to walk around a virtual environment when it didn't contribute at all to the learning that you were going to be doing. Um, so we began to actually take some of those features out, and actually the learning improved as we got better to tailoring it to where we were presenting you with the view and the immersive experience that you needed to experience to be better prepared for that environment. Go on to the next one, please. And this is true with task trainers too, because you may need to, as you see on the equipment maintenance trainer there that's on the right, um, this was, we needed to have CAD level drawings so that every nut and bolt was in the right place, because we were going to be having you look at something and try to identify exactly what was wrong and just what you needed to do to fix it. But on the left-hand side, we did a trainer on if you would be in an African village and the pump was not working, what were the steps you needed to go through and do? We did not need to mimic every nut and bolt, and we wanted to be able to make that a little simpler looking, and a little more so you didn't get distracted by the details that were not important. We wanted you to think about what's the process. And these task trainers, um, whenever you're building a simulation, you need to think about just what is it we're trying to train the student on. We built a flight maintenance trainer, and while within that you were having an airplane that came back in, there were reported errors, issues, and you had to fix that and repair it so it was ready to get back on the flight line. Um, and within the simulation, you had to go and diagnose what the problem was, looking at all the different parts of the plane, and um, change out parts, put in replacements, do any of the tasks that you would need to do that you would do in your regular job. But the actual meta learning objective they were trying to teach you was, don't try to fix things by swapping out parts, because there were maintenance people that were, instead of doing the proper tests, it was quicker for them to just pull out a part and take a part off the shelf and stick that new part in. And if that didn't fix the problem, they had just wasted tens of thousands of dollars because they couldn't just take that new part back out and put it back on the shelf. So they were wasting money by taking a shortcut and trying to fix it. So the real learning objective of the simulation was not to teach you the details of how do you repair a specific part. It was just the overarching economics of doing things the right way is better in the long run than swapping things as fast as you can. And so when we went to build the detailed parts of that, we knew that we didn't have to mimic every nut and bolt, and that made us able to make it quicker and faster and cheaper for the customer. But it, more importantly, it delivered on their learning objectives better than if we had built it out in detail. Go on to the next one. And this is especially true of process simulations. Um, One of the most important areas that people can learn from, but the learning needs to be scaffolded or after action review assisted, um, is that when you put them into an environment, whether it's these things where it's a hospital and you're responding to a mass casualty, or you're doing economic policy for a city, or whether you're training the staff to do an OR to ICU handover. And a lot of the things that we had to put into that sim were simple stuff like you need somebody to remember to close the doors so that the outside sound is not distracting you, and turn off the TV so it's not distracting anyone. Because if you went through the whole thing and did everything right, but at the end someone misheard something because you forgot to turn off the TV, that's as bad as delivering the information incorrectly. Um, so uh, the these simulations actually um, put you in an environment where you deal with those meta issues of workflow, of organizational charts, of how does our supply and storage and communication and everything all work together to make the whole organization work. Go
Doug,
ahead
did
to
you
the
see
next.
the question in the chat that says this
No.
meta, is the meta learning a design requirement?
Yes. Um, and if it's not, it should be. um, the We do often um, have a problem where um, a customer thinks a game or a simulation would be good for our training, but they happen to have a favorite game, whether it's a board game or a computer game. And so they always try to fit that square peg in that round hole. And it's very important to be able to do that customer education to say, yes, that's a great game. And for some things it might work, but when we're building this sim, we think this other style of interaction would be better. And that really comes down to with that meta learning. Um, but you also have to be aware that the meta learning often doesn't come through as clearly, um, especially in these more complicated simulations, so that you need to make sure that there is an after action review or the report that you give out at the end of the game that reemphasizes, why did this happen? Actually, I think I've got a picture on the next one. Can you go to the next one, Shannon? Yeah, this incident commander, we built this as a to help teach the NIMS protocol, which is a first responder protocol for communicating during an incident. Um, and as we were testing this, one of the funny things, I don't know whether funny is the right word for it, but it was intended that there would be used by, especially by small towns, so that you could get the police chief, the fire chief, the mayor, head of public works all together, because they rarely were brought together in this type of way. And so we built it that way. But as we were testing it, um, we would often test it by saying, okay, we're going to bring in the local fire department and have them play the game. So you would have the fire department playing all the positions, whether it was the mayor, the the police chief, and everything else. And the way they responded to an incident was very different than if you had the local police station come in and play it, because the fire were trained that saving lives was most important, and they would actually spend more effort getting all of the civilians out of the area and let things burn to the ground. Um, and then when the game was over, um, the game rated you on everything from how the incident played in the press to what were the downstream costs of replacing whatever was damaged. And they would be very upset because they're like, we saved everybody, but we got a bad score because, the buildings burned down, and the mayor wasn't happy because at the next election the press brought this out. Um, and then we would bring in the police, and they had their own objectives. And then when we would actually play it properly, where we had a fire representative, a police representative, the mayor's office, um, all of those things were in tension because they knew they were being scored on their downstream score, and it made the game a much um, better training tool to teach the NIMS protocol, which is what everyone was trying to do. Um, and I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that when you create these simulations, um, they're not on a rail. You're not forcing people to just go through the steps. They have choice about how they respond to everything in a simulation. Um, and if you don't want to teach them the wrong message, you need to make sure that that is explicitly called out in the end. But you also want to respect that sometimes that you need to also respect the position and their training and how these things work. So that's that meta learning at the end. Um, the by far the best discussions around Incident Commander were those after action meetings where everyone sat around the table and discussed why did you do this way? You know, where did we lose the bubble on that type of thing. And that really, and this slide here is about exposure. It's a little different than immersion. In exposure is you need to experience something, not just the environment. And for Incident Commander, that was perfect because they were getting to experience the conflicting requirements that would be brought on them by politics, by economics, by everything else while they were within this simulation. And I kind of like where I went with that. I was going to also talk about exposure in terms of we've created some of these games that you can see on the two pictures on the left there are for kids who were afraid to come to the hospital. So we actually created 3D environments of the hospital so they could run around the hospital. They could go in and see what it was like to go through an MRI to get their blood drawn. But we also made mini games that had like memory games where you're trying to turn over the cards and match up the people. And the people that you were matching up were the actual doctors and nurses that you would be meeting. So this was sent to kids before they were going to have a visit to the hospital to make the whole experience feel more welcoming. And so the exposure wasn't to immerse them so they were prepared for the environment. It was to set their mindset correctly for when they went into that environment. And I've gotten way off track on a lot of this stuff, Shannon, but
No, it's great. I was actually just chatting in the chat. So
oh, good.
I had that too because, I resonate a lot with what you said because being that this was, before I met you guys, I had no experience with video games as part of a technology. And so I had all these ideas of, you think of a board game and you're like, oh yeah, it'll really easily translate into the video game world. Well, it doesn't, because of the series, the mapping, the if thens and that kind of stuff. And when we were looking, and I'm actually gonna see if I can go back to the last slide. Sorry, I can't. Anyways, on the last slide before that, sorry, I'm gonna have to go back one more. Um, when we were talking about exposure simulation and that type of thing, these where they go in to prepare for like the pediatrics wards and get to know people and to do those things. I often thought it would be a great onboarding tool for like HR as well, to kind of orient people to their new surroundings and to new places. To basically use this as a video game, concept and utilize it in various different industries in various different ways. So I appreciate you showing us all of this and putting that in the forefront. Let me see if I can get the stop the share. Let me see if I can get the share back here real quick. And I'll hand it back over to you so you could go through Timmy. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Perfect.
So I just wanted to point out this the technology committee of Society for Simulation in Healthcare um, worked to, we felt there was a real problem with people saying, I have a problem, but I just don't know how technologies can be brought to bear on it. So what we finally have come to call the Timmy was that type of thing where you could um, uh, and up on the website there, where ssih.org/Timmy, there's an interactive one where you can point at the different elements, and it has text descriptions of the different ways that you can use the different elements, and it'll point out like for communication training, here are the different things, and here are the different ways they can interact. So it's just a little tool to help people really think through the the opportunities that you have to use all types of technology, whether it's mannequins or mobile phones or serious games or VR. Um, it just goes through a lot of those, and how everything maps back to a lot of the different educational concepts.
Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation and for letting us all know about video games, where they came from, where we're going with them, and the translatability again across all disciplines. I really feel like again an example for a pediatrics walkthrough could be very much used for onboarding in an HR situation somewhere. So it's really the concept is there. It's just a matter of those learning objectives, right, and those outcomes, and building a platform where you could do those. So what we're going to do right now is let you guys have access to some of these game simulators so you can play them with yourself. So in the chat, I went ahead and provided the link to Breakaway's site. You must register, but there are free places to play. So I am going to go ahead and stop share. That way, Doug, if you wanted to demonstrate a little bit, or if you wanted me to demonstrate, or if anybody had questions, now is a beautiful time to pop those cameras on. And we're in our open sharing space right now, but we
Yeah.
did
Uh,
want, go ahead.
I'm happy to demonstrate if you want, but we can answer questions, and if people
Yeah.
want to see something, I'll be happy to bring it up and show anything.
Love it, because I'm actually going to go over there myself, just to because I love going over here and playing a lot with the cases. There's the V Healthcare, there's the Standardized Patient Studio. Again, for those who are on the call, who are in my simulation world, who are standardized patient educators, we talked about this a little bit in our venue and our association, and a little bit about how we can utilize our own and showcase our own talents. So I've been fortunate enough to work with Breakaway and to build some of those cases in their library. So it's very, again, it's a very valuable, very niche experience where we are and what we do and how that translates into student and clinical learning judgments and competencies and those types of things. So you can go to the website, you can click on it. They do have the Standardized Patient Studio where you can do the patient communication skills, interact with those. And let me see if I can pull one up. I actually like to kind of just show you guys because I think it's kind of um, a really fun opportunity, especially if you have students. And this is what I would do. So basically, when I had students that were waiting in between their OSCE encounters and they were real fidgety and, you know, trying to figure things out, I would take them to these websites and I would, let them go and practice some of their communication skills. Because again, it gave them the opportunity to get some of that nervous energy out and to work through their OPQRST so that they could get, familiarize themselves with the patient interview and that kind of thing, and then go from there. So let me just share my screen really quick because I just want to show you the kind of awesome things that it does. So I need to make sure I can, did I share sound? Let's see. So the good thing about this is can you see my screen? Can you see the avatar? So the nice thing that I like about this is you can type. So what brings you in today is always our lovely first question, right? But you can type it in, and then the standardized patient will give you.
Started having some abdominal pain starting a few days back that has been getting a lot worse. I have also been having trouble going to the bathroom, going a lot more than normal and a very little amount of urine each time that looks kind of frothy and big.
Did you hear the sound? It
Nightly.
is. Okay, perfect. And usually too, you have the opportunity, as you can see on my screen, because I've had to disable my microphone for several things, but you have the opportunity to go in there and talk to it. So you can vocalize through the microphone, it will write it in, text it in, and then again, you can press play, and then it can walk you through. The rest of your interview. So what was really nice is it went from the interview portion, it went into the physical examination, any tests, again, diagnoses, treatment, the whole 9 yards. So basically everything that we walk them through in an OSCE or preparing them for that kind of summative or formative training on patient interviewing as well as again mirrored with those physical exams and their ability to diagnose and to follow up. So again, gaming technology with those didactic portions with those live simulated patient trainings, followed up with evidence-based feedback, is basically a way that we can convert what people are doing in brick and mortar buildings into this virtual space, wherein the rest of us are kind of operating and working in. So is there anybody who has any questions or any comments, anything they would like to discuss or talk about? I really appreciate everybody coming and taking this time and opportunity. I was really excited to, again, get Doug here to show people a little bit about the technology that we're using out here that's available to you. And then again, this website is open for registration. It's got free cases to play, which comes very in handy for some of those clinical skills training and types of things. So
There was one comment in the chat that about AI in simulation, and I just wanted to tell one story if you don't mind. If
yes, please.
uh, so, I mean, we've been using AI in games for decades, and obviously it wasn't as good as ChatGPT is these days, but we had some pretty good AI. And back in the mid 90s, for quite a few years, I did football games, and we built a neural network that would learn as you played the game over and over, and it would then use its knowledge of you to call the plays and do everything. And it got very good. I mean, it did a good job, and really would challenge you uh, at any type of game style that you wanted to throw at it. But after we did this a couple of years, we got a lot of feedback that the games got boring as the AI got better and better. And a lot of the players didn't like it. And I started doing some investigation. And what we found was that the AI got so good that it always called the right play. No matter what you were doing, it was in doing the right thing. And that just didn't feel like you were playing another person, because humans are unpredictable. And um, whenever I replaced the smart AI with just sort of a random number generator to pick the plays, the players unanimously all thought it was more fun to play. So I've taken from that, that this was not a question of making the computer better or not. It was a question of what was fun for the people to play the game. But I think as we build simulators and games using AI, we need to keep that in mind, especially when we're trying to replicate interaction, communication with other people, that humans are just wacky. And um, we don't want to make the AI so predictable and right that it doesn't occasionally surprise us.
Yeah, it's funny that you brought that up because predictability has been something that's been coming up a lot lately, right? Because again, it's that my models know me after a while, and they think they know what I'm going to ask before I ask it, and so I'm like, no, no, I don't want to go that direction this time. Like I want to go this
Right,
other direction, right? So, and it
right.
didn't know what to do. It was kind of like, wait a minute, what? You know, so like we can stop here, but in order for me to, so say I wanted to replicate or, generate content that was in that similar template before, it now can't do that. It's because I've
Right,
literally sent it like on another task and it does not know what to do. So it's
right,
funny that it can multitask, but it can't multitask in a continuity type of way. So that's I think what I struggle with as well. And again, most people again trying to get them to understand is that it's not human. It's human initiated. It is very intuitive. It's a learning machine. So there are neural networks and pathways that it does follow that is similar to the brain pathways. But like you just said, human beings are spontaneous. We have the ability to change our mind at random. So it's not based on an if then situation. It's just based on because I feel like it. And you can't explain to a model that I just feel like it randomly
right,
just doesn't show up like every third time or something,
right.
right? So
I
if it
woke up on
doesn't,
the wrong side of the bed today.
right. Yes. Yes. So what is that? It's not it's like an anomaly in mathematics. So that's not a constant, that's a variable. And it doesn't know really how to navigate those variables. We still have to provide those safeguards, right? And those
Right,
guardrails and those rules and all the things. So again, AI is like a child. You have to give it structure, you have to give it foundations and context and all of the things in order for it to grow, and in order for it to get to know you in the way that it does. So it's very funny as well, the different types of models that I use and the different behaviors or the different personality interactions that they have with me based on the work that I do within that as well. So it's very intuitive, but at the same time, it's kind of like, I'm a machine just trying to do my job. So, but it is very, people are very apprehensive. When I'm in a lot of AI venues with a lot of novice learners, because myself, I still can, I've only been in this space maybe for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, not very long either, and only really active in the last, say, 4 years. And it's constantly moving. I mean, I can't even keep up with the change, and I don't think industries can even set policies and procedures that are ethically and just really ready, right, to kind of entertain how we need to utilize it and when and all of those other kinds of things. So I think it's still kind of a scary subject for a lot of people, and so just trying to get out there and advocate, talk about it, give them the opportunities, in terms of how do you use it, what do you do with it, and what do I need it for, right? Because right now half the world is using it to make recipes and to like get directions, which is good. Those are daily tasks and habits, but it's not being used for to solve these like life world problems and life problems like it was really intended for, right? We're spending a lot of time on the penny the penny stuff when we should really be using it to market some of the bigger things. It still needs to be human centered. It's always going to be human centered. That's a big thing for us as in SP education, is making sure that we don't lose the human at the center of it, right? So again, is making sure that yes, like AI is fantastic. I love it. It does the best research assistant I had. Of course, it lies and it hallucinates, and so I have to go back and check on things. But I mean, what people don't, you know what I mean? So honestly, if we wanted to react like a human, it kind of does in that respect. But if it could just figure out the probabilities for everything else, I think we'd be set. But thank you for sharing that perspective on that, because I'm sure you've seen the evolution again, over the last 30, 40 years of AI, and it's embedded in everything. People don't understand it's there. You've been using it all along. You just don't know because it's just not been called that. But every time you go to a website, every time you interact with any kind of chat bot, that's AI. So, and I don't think people are fully aware of how embedded in our lives it really is, you know. Anyways, thank you again so much, Doug. Anybody else have any questions or anything else? One of the discussion questions that I like to bring up from time to time, and again, just because I'm curious about what other people are doing and how they're doing it, basically is, how could you apply simulation in your role or discipline? What are how, like I said, even as far as with HR, you think every industry in the world has an HR department, right? So how could you use simulation in your HR department? How could you use it in your communications department, or interdisciplinarily between other departments or other industries? So it's just a takeaway of what could you do and how could you use this, and is this something that would be beneficial for you? Um, well, all right. Well, the last thing I want to do is make sure that everybody has access to the Interprofessional Collective website. I have dropped it in the chat several times. I'm going to drop it in here one more time. In that, I have built for our first one, and it's kind of a running, it's just a running simulator that I offer on the website. And I'm just going to show that to you really quick. Thank you very much. Okay. So on the Interprofessional Collective website, for the meeting resources, you can click on Doug's picture. It's going to give you his bio. It's going to give you his contact information, where to contact him on the website. You'll have access to the PDF from today's presentation. Please, please, please complete the survey. Let us know how the meeting went, if it was worth it, on how we can make it better. You can also go to workshop resources. So this is a continuing library of resources that I continue to build. Right now, we have all the simulation standards of best practice for ASPE, for SSH, for Anaxel, for IPECs. We also include today's TIMI. You have the link to access to that directly to the interactive link, as well as Anaxel's link to all their simographics that we use when constructing simulations, which also includes Bloom's taxonomy, Edmondson's learning theories. So there's lots of resources and materials. So please feel free to look through the website. I built out the Expanding Simulation Beyond Healthcare Simulator. I built this with 9 disciplines specifically in mind: mental health and wellness, public health, social justice and advocacy, ethics, education, technology, business, film and media, and acting and performance. So if you are at your own campus and you're looking for something to do with your other departments or other schools, this is a great tool to do your own IPE. Basically, it's a full-on simulator. You can click on this activity worksheet where you can download and work off the worksheet for the Sim Design Canvas, which is in the team activity. So if you start at overview and you got your sheets, you can just follow through the entire session. It's built out for about 90 minutes, so you're more than welcome to play there. Once you're done with that, I do have a continual simulator. So after that, there is the longitudinal case over a period of 23 years, who follows our protagonist, Jordan Rivera, over this time. And then again, it goes through every single one of those disciplines as well, and how it applied at different times in his life. So please feel free to, again, go through the website, play. If you're looking for anything, there's plenty of resources. And I also list the IPEC core competencies with the website, because everything that I built is mapped directly to that. So I'm hoping that this will be something I'll be able to present on later on, as well as build more classes and courses around this. So thank you, everybody, for coming today. I'm so thankful for your time that that you decided to come and spend it with us. I went ahead and put in the chat. Please, again, feel free to fill out the survey. Thank you again, Doug, for taking your time today to come and talk to us about gaming technology. Do you have anything that you'd like to leave us with?
Nope. Come to the V Healthcare site and play around with the stuff. And thank you for doing this.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much. Have a beautiful weekend, and we'll see you next month. Bye.
Bye, Shannon. Bye, Doug.